All right, here we go. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna throw about 6 one-on-one drills at you. Common drills that are great to do with kids of all ages. So one thing I love to do, especially with Coach Dunn, as I roll the tape here, is just kind
Corey,
of
Corey,
yes.
Corey, sorry to interrupt you. Can you put on gallery view? Or is that, do you have that?
Yeah, hold on one second. Yeah, it should be on gallery, but
Okay. It's interesting. I can only see you right now. But if you're good, then you're good. Go ahead.
I
can
see
you
all
see
three
it?
of us.
All right. You're good. Sorry, Corey.
No,
Get
it's
back. I didn't mean to interrupt your flow, but I wanted to stop it before it got out of hand if we were in the wrong spot.
all good, man. So I'm
All
gonna
right.
throw us at the top of the screen here.
Cool.
All right, so this is just an example of Coach Dunn and I, who I work alongside with. Just kind of breaking down and explaining how drills work. A lot of times we create these videos and we send them out to our players so that way when you get to the field, you can kind of get right into the action. I don't love taking too much time explaining when you're on the field, especially when you're renting a space for an hour. You only have so much time, right? You're getting in and out. So in terms of us explaining the nuances of a drill, we do that in videos like this, and we send it to our kids beforehand. So that was just an example of me talking about a ripping up, ripping down, versus a defenseman, depending on how he's playing you. Is the head of his stick upfield? Is he in a V-hold? So those are little nuances we look for so that we can make our players successful from a one-on-one perspective. So first drill we're going to dive into is called Canadian one-on-ones. Simply because Canadians are great at playing, in tight, are great at playing with guys on their front arm, playing with contact, and also using contact to their advantage. So in this particular case, you try to put a defenseman in a good position where he's kind of taking away top side. We use the little nubs so that way they're really focused on using their hands and getting under attackmen's bottom hands and making sure to use their feet and use their angles and drive guys and push them, as opposed to using the area between their top hand and the head of their stick, which is pretty dangerous territory for a defenseman if you have a savvy attackman on you. And then offensively, we're just working on little moves to be successful in tight when you have contact. So rips, rockers, inside rolls, things along those lines, and that's kind of what we're working on here. So let it roll, right? Play to a shot. That particular drill was set up at the 5x5. You can, of course, set those up in different areas of the field. So that's our Canadian one-on-ones. And I love that drill. You can do it on the right side, the left side. You can throw poles in the defenseman's hands. You can throw a short stick in their hands. And you can work on a lot of different things. Next up, this is a favorite of ours. We do it in a bunch of different places on the field, typically doing it off a pass. This is called figure 8 one-on-ones. All right, the drill is set up where you have an attackman and a defenseman kind of back to back. All right, I know I think it's hard to see here. Let's see if I got another rep. Oh, I guess not. But typically you start back to back, kind of where this defenseman's standing. The offensive player runs around the cone furthest from the goal. Defensive player runs around the cone closest to the goal, taking a topside approach. All right, so defensively you're working on approaching, getting your stick out, making sure you're kind of forcing guys to where you want to, where you want them to go. So that way you're kind of in line with your defensive principles. And then offensively, we love catching off of a pass because that forces you to go from catching that pass and having your head turn to then turning your head, surveying that approach, and then reading it from there. So in this particular case, we're attacking from kind of that high wing area. This guy's going to catch it, read the approach, and then make a move. All right, so
yeah, I love that off the catch. Make them catch the ball. Make them read the approach. That's really good. We do all our stuff off the catch. I think that's super valuable. Catching the ball is important. Last I checked.
Underrated.
Yeah, Corey, I'm with you there too. I think defensively, I like to do a lot more approaching off a pass rather than a stagnant approach. I think that's the part that gets lost a lot in one-on-one drills and at camps and stuff like that is people want to just rapid fire, no off the catch, no off the pass. And to me, that's 50% of playing one-on-one defense is how you approach it. So love that drill right there.
Yeah, and if a defenseman's doing the right thing, I'm sure, Jo, you'll notice guys are catching passes with, maybe a stick in their chest or under pressure, which is something that you have to work on as an offensive player. And I think, the more comfortable you get with your skills, again, wall ball helps with that stuff, but you got to practice it in kind of a real game setting. So this is our funnel one-on-ones. So the way this drill is set up, all right, I'm going to go back here just a half second. Hopefully you can see. Offensive player starting back-to-back with that defensive player. Only difference is from figure eight one-on-ones, you kind of have options now, and we've kind of created a funnel with where our offensive players have to dodge after they work their way around one of the three spots. So in this particular case, you can come around top center, top left, top right. That defenseman has two cones to pick from, which one he's going to get around and kind of work on that approach. And the biggest thing with this drill, all right, so I'll let it roll for a second, then I'll freeze it. All right, so this offensive player is trying to make his move, kind of like that Oklahoma drill between that little funnel of cones. So that way we're really working on getting to the pipes when we dodge downhill from top center or from those high wings. A lot of guys have a tendency to avoid contact and dodge towards the corners of the field or the sideline. This kind of forces you to create contact first, throw that first punch, get downhill, and hopefully have a good angle if you want to maybe get into your guy, bounce for a shot, maybe create separation, get a shot, etc. And then defensively, we're just trying to force him outside that funnel. So that way we're getting them down the alley. All right, we're taking away the middle of the field. We're kind of staying on that back hip if he decides to dodge downhill and dodge down the alley and don't let him roll back. And we're using nubs in this particular case just so we're emphasizing footwork and using our hands. So that's a good example of that offensive player kind of getting into him. Again, defensive player is at a disadvantage with that nub, so I don't read too much into him getting that shot off. I just think, it's a good way to showcase the drill, so that's why we use that rep. All right, so Powerball 101s. This drill is created by Coach Dunn, and he's a fantastic defensive coach who does a really good job making defensive drills fun, which I'm sure you guys know a lot of times it's tough to do that when you don't have offensive players to go against. So the way he runs his Powerball series, which he has a bunch of them, is, this drill is starting out as just like an advantage 101. And when this offensive player, who's actually a defenseman without a stick, drives above goal line, he has two options. He can either try to inside roll and get to that laundry basket and drop, he has like a tennis ball in his hand, and drop it in there, which in that particular case would be really good for that on-ball defenseman, because that's really where we want to force guys. We want to turn them at goal line and get them to kind of inside roll where we have help. Or you have the option, as you can see at the 5x5, we have another laundry basket where you can kind of try to get to for, maybe 1 point, as opposed to, getting to that lower side for 2 points, or however you want to, mess around with the points there. So this is a really good drill, again, to work on turning guys at goal line. It's a really good way to keep your defensive guys engaged. It's also a good way to get your defensemen to kind of understand where offensive players want to get to on the field when they're dodging from X. So you kind of like can see the game from their perspective. So that's our Powerball series, and you can do these from all different areas. You can do them from low wings, high wings, X, etc. And a little
Body bag.
I like it.
little body bag. How you doing? All right, advantage 101s.
Ready?
We do this drill a lot. It's really nice from an offensive perspective to learn what to do when you have a step on your defenseman. For a lot of reasons, the biggest thing is, if you're quick and you're shifty and you do a good job getting into the defenseman, you're going to get a step on him. It's like, okay, now what do you do with that step? How do you turn the corner and get a good shot off and score? How do you shoot around your defenseman? How do you bounce, shoot off his shoulder? How do you draw a slide and make the right decision with the ball in your stick? Also, when you have an advantage, a lot of times defensemen, they're now trying to catch up and get under your bottom hand. So how do you protect your stick, pin your bottom hand if you have two hands? How do you go from one-handed to two-handed cradling? So a lot of great concepts there. And then defensively, it's like, okay, you're trailing a guy. Like, that's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like, what do we do here? So that way you don't make that trail technique or that trail position into like another 3 feet of separation where you have no shot of getting under a guy's hands, disrupting a shot, and you're forced to kind of, slide when you don't really want to. So that's why we do our advantage 101s here. So this is a good example of a little rocker step. Kind of gets the defenseman to hesitate, shoots around him for a goal. All right. It's a good defensive rep where he's kind of in his V holds. Does a good job kind of taking away the top side there and getting under that hand. Forces a turnover. So
no dice.
No dice. Get out. Last one. Seal 101s. All right. So this is a pretty cool drill in that now defensemen have to kind of get through a seal, find their man, make a good approach, get their hands out, and play defense one-on-one. Offensively, you're kind of working on maybe popping off the crease, catching a pass, reading an approach, and then attacking the goal. So some similar concepts you'll see here to those figure 8 1-on-1s, but now we're kind of talking about like that area of the field that kind of goes unnoticed when, the ball's maybe on the opposite side of the field. But if you do some good things there and you understand how to play, when you are off ball or when you're popping to the weak side, I think you can be really effective as a dodger, and you can also be buttoned up as a defender. So that way, if a seal comes, for example, right here, how does this defenseman get through that seal? That's a technique that, maybe doesn't get taught as much. So we try to work on that, how to position your stick, how to kind of scrape them and kind of shed that little seal there. And how do you find your man right away and approach appropriately so that way you don't get smoked to the top side there. So that's our seal 1-on-1s. All right, catch the pass, attack. I gave some love to the defenseman for you, Jo, because typically I show the offensive guys scoring goals in these drills, so I thought you might appreciate that.
Yeah, I did appreciate that. There's a first time for everything.
No one cares.
Corey, a lot of good
All right, here we go.
there.
Thank
Hold
you.
on, Mikey. Can I give my guy Corey some compliments?
Yeah, sorry, start that over.
A lot of good stuff there. I like a lot of the disadvantage the defense has on a lot of it, or a lot of the reacting the defense has to do. Plus, it's all a little outside the box compared to what people generally do.
I appreciate it, John.